Hey guys, Dimitri says hello, hello, hello. Good day, my good sir. Hi Don, how are you? Good, good. How are you? How has your guys' weekend been? Anything good happen? Anything bad? I want to hear about it. Hi Don, would you mind chatting Soul this stream? Sure. Just because you asked so early, uh, I'll do you the favor. We can actually start with that, but before I start, shout out to FTX for sponsoring the show. Their support is really appreciated. I think they have the best mobile application that you could kind of wish for. So if you want to check that out, the links to that are in the description. You can do like all the kind of asset swapping that you would want, and you can all do it on your mobile phone. So it's quite nice. Wouldn't really recommend trading too much on your mobile phone, but if you like kind of adjusting positions or whatever on the go, good way to go. Good evening, sir. Quiet weekend. All good. Love to hear that. Would love to hear your current thoughts on hashtag meme coins, Don. I don't like. I don't really think they're in a good place. I wouldn't want to trade the meme coins right now, but yeah. I promised I'd look at Sol, so let's do that real quick. Generally speaking, I mean, there's technically you have like a breakout here, but as Cred and I always say, right? When you have breakouts, you want them to just go. If you remember back like a few weeks back in August, I actually painted out this and I was like, if it breaks the diagonal and this horizontal, it's just gonna go, right? And that's what it did that time, right? It broke both. You can see like the diagonal was broken with like a big impulse, broke the horizontal at the same time, and then just ran away with it. In this case, it didn't. It just stayed around the breakout and then went, right? And in general, when you see breakouts, what you want to see is like, let's say this is the resistance, price goes into this and then breaks out. You don't want to see it come back too far. Usually a good sign of strength is when it just completely rips upwards. In this case, it didn't. Still had like a second leg to it, but I don't trust this as much as I trust this one. I could see this be faded, as in just trade in this range, or maybe go back above the range, go sideways, and then dump. I think that's more likely than just complete melt up. But then again, like the trend's your friend, and this thing is up only. But I wouldn't want to be the guy that buys new all-time highs this time around. Didn't mind back then, do mind right now. So that's kind of my view on it. If you want like an entry, I can't really give you one. If you want to bet on this, on strength, on Solana, I mean, you can try to rebuy down here, I guess. But I don't, like, I'm not biggest fan of like charts like this because it's really hard to trade them other than like the low time frame. So if you're trading the 4 hour or the daily, that's fine. Like anything like on the higher time frames, this has already had 2 pushes. Usually what you get are 3, right? So you get like a big move up, another smaller move up, and then the smallest move up into like breakdown. That's usually how crypto trades. This has already had like 1 big push up, a smaller one, and even if it goes like the third one, I would not want to bet on. So for me, this is basically done. You could hold it if you have a good position from lower until trend reversal, I think. But I mean, I like investment wise, like this is mostly done in my opinion anyway. But yeah, I'm not the biggest kind of altcoin holder anyway, so that's just my opinion. Doesn't have to mirror your own. Good evening, sir. Good evening. So a bunch of people asking about their coins because I started with Solana. Not gonna go through all of them. I'm like, it's just not gonna happen. but market cap is much higher, so doesn't it make sense to take it slow? Yeah, it does, but then again, it also makes sense to like get in less heavy, right? Like it's already in the top 10, quite far up there. I mean, what's the point in risking it big at that point after a rally like that? So there you go. That's Solana. But let's go over Bitcoin real quick, and then we can do whatever you guys want to. I'm completely open to anything. Nothing's changed in the last week. We've had the monthly close, closed above the high, so that's nice. Still not bearish on that. The weekly holding support right now, still going sideways, which I mean is gonna make people nervous. Always, like this is how it always works. Have like a market go sideways for a while, people get increasingly bearish the longer it goes sideways. Don't ask me why, it's just crypto. The only time where I can remember it being different is in here. And even there, like people got more and more bearish as it went. It was just like people were like, okay, 6K is just gonna hold forever, right? But generally speaking, whenever the market goes sideways, people get bearish. And it's going sideways right now, so people are getting bearish. I don't think makes much sense given we're still above the only we are still above all the resistances, right? There are none left. You can draw like whatever you want, even if you take the highest close. We're above that, so like technically speaking, there's no reason to be bearish. One thing that I'm a little bit worried about is that the S&P has been performing better than Bitcoin, and that we've seen some shitcoin pumps, but then again, like Shiba's been retracing shitload, so like it's not that bad. So there's no real big reason to be like overly bearish, and there's a lot of reasons to be bullish, in my opinion, just from like a technical standpoint. But all obviously depends on how the traditional markets play out and everything around that. But for me, as long as we're above support, I mean, just makes sense to be bullish. So I'm going to remain bullish as long as we're trading above 58K on a closing basis. And I mean, that means for the next 7 days at least, I'm going to be still positioned bullish, and that's that. On the daily time frame, we've seen, and this has happened, I don't know, like I said, whenever stuff goes sideways, you see people flip bearish. Every time we've approached 60K, the bears come out. Every time it goes back above 62, the bulls come out, and it's this pitiful kind of back and forth. Right now, like if we get rejected here, I could see 60K break. Right, you get like this kind of like lower high thing here, and then if it goes back down there, like 60K has been tested a shitload of times. I could see like the market just run that, but it's not looking bad, right? It's just chilling above support. The only trouble that I have with this is, like I said, 60K has been tested a billion times, so at some point I could see it fail. But even if it does, I think 57K. So this support down here is gonna be decent, right? So if it does decide to take out stops, I think that's the place to kind of go. As an aggressive bull, the more passive bull looks for 52. That's a really good support. It's also weekly support. So yeah, 52 is pretty good. 56, 57, also pretty good. And I mean, as long as 60K hasn't broken, no real reason to talk about much lower, unless you just want to get a bid in. And I think like those two areas are good area to bid. Not gonna change any of my positioning if we lose the 60K area. And yeah, I'm gonna be aggressively bidding 50, 52-ish, like that area, if we do wipe out. And if you don't, I'd be happy as well. Just take it higher. And then I think at that point, the media hype is going to get big again, I think, into the 70Ks, 70, 80K, just because people are going to talk about 100K next. And we might get lucky with retail interest again, because that's kind of been like focused on Shiba most of the time. Like most of the bid from retail has actually just been concentrated on Dogecoin and Shiba. been a little bit of a problem because I mean Shiba's just clogging the network, and I mean no real bid from retail is going into real markets. It's just these like coins that just like the meme coins. That said, Shiba actually, and I think this is important, has this one guy obviously with 20% of the supply, right? Bought for 8K, is now worth like what after this drop, like 3 billion. I don't remember quite right. But yeah, this like super rich kind of dude off of Shiba, and he's been moving coins, so that's been like going down a little. And I think as long as that continues, we're actually quite good. Like you want to see Shiba plead out like Dogecoin did, because then you're gonna see retail, like the focus of retail shift from memes to actual real projects, and that's probably gonna get like the rest of retail involved. Not gonna really help them much because I think they're probably gonna buy the top, but for us, like for the people in the ecosystem already, that's good news, obviously. Even though it sucks to say, right? You don't want to have like people lose money, but I mean that's how crypto goes, right? Like no one cares about crypto during this entire part of the market, and then once it starts going vertical, that's where everyone cares. And then I mean, if you're one of the guys that buys into the vertical kind of price moves, I mean, no one but yourself to blame. Maybe like the YouTube guys that tell you that everything is going like Shiba's going to $1 and shit. You can blame those as well, but it's mostly you, right? So hope that continues. Would lighten the load on ETH as well. Kind of see the meme coins go away for a while, but no idea there. No idea what that guy's gonna do. It's just not a trade for me. And I mean, you look at Dogecoin, you see the same thing, right? That's been relentlessly selling down. So that's like actually good news, in my opinion, for the market. So yeah. You literally just said about stalling breakouts and how you don't trust them. Yes. I generally don't like this is taking too long. I agree with Cred. Cred's been saying this is taking too long, and I agree with him. But and this is why I'm saying 70 to 80K. Like I can draw the same thing with Solana. So you have this breakout here, right? The reason why I'm only targeting 70 to 80K is because we are stalling here. We're not going vertical. And I mean, I think at that point, like the market is so big, it'd be surprising. But the reason why I'm targeting 70 to 80K is because I think we're going to go sideways there for a little bit. Maybe spike high, maybe do something like that, and then actually drop back down again. I think we're going to trade lower than 60K towards 2022, probably significantly so. That doesn't mean like I'm getting bearish when I expect the market to squeeze one more time. I could be like, that could be overreach and I could be wrong. But no, there's no technical reason for me to be bearish yet. But yeah, I do not like breakouts. Like whenever you see a breakout like this or whatever the pattern is and it starts breaking out and it just goes sideways there, what usually happens is it spikes one more time and then actually just dumps. And I think the same thing, the Sol chart lines up perfectly for that as well. You have like an all-time high break and then it starts going sideways. I think it's like the same for Bitcoin and for Solana. Could be wrong. Like we could just go into price discovery and I'd be fine with that. I mean, I'm gonna, like if it just goes sideways or like if it doesn't go sideways but just like starts accelerating, I'm still gonna be in position, right? But if it does what I think it's going to do, which is gonna be like break out of this range, go higher, and then pull in a bunch of retail and stuff and go sideways, then I'll be the first to exit, right? But yeah, so like my line of thinking is like I'm gonna try to sell 70 to 80K and the ETH equivalent, as long as, I mean, it just looks shit, right? And I could see that happen. So it's a consistent line of thinking, even though might not sound as such. Because I mean, like from 60 to 80K, that's actually quite a big increase. Not necessarily in percentage, but given that we have like a bunch of Bitcoin and ETH, most of us anyway, it starts getting significant the higher it goes, right? Like every 1K movement, if you have a bunch of Bitcoin and a bunch of ETH, it's gonna be in real dollar terms quite a lot. Even if it's not like to 80K, that's just 20%, right? 20 to 30%. That's not that much in percentage terms, but it's a lot in dollar terms. I disagree. Retail is gonna keep buying memes. Yeah, I mean a bunch of them are, but like it's always like that's always been the case, right? But I think like the moment you actually get like Bitcoin going up, making headlines, and Shiba making headlines for going down, you might actually see like people actually buy like something else besides Shiba for once. But we'll see. I mean, if it's just gonna be Shiba, retail is just gonna miss the entire thing, and then it's just gonna be sitting in Shiba. And that's going to retrace 90% or more at some point anyway. You know Shiba is going to pump again. I've been buying the dip. I mean, be my guest. If you're trying to buy into a guy that has 20% of the supply and you have no idea who it is, and if he's really like, I mean, it sounds even stupid to say like submitted to the cause, which is what the fuck's the cause of Shiba other than being a meme. You can do whatever you want to, right? It's just, I don't think it's a good idea. If the guy wants to market at zero, he can make it, so is all I'm saying. And I mean, having that kind of pressure with a guy that's just been holding that coin for like a year, I wouldn't want to make that bet. Like if you have that pressure on Bitcoin and a guy's been holding coins for 10 years, you're probably gonna be like, you're safe to assume that that's not gonna happen, right? Like if you hold something for 10 years and you have a bunch of it, it's probably not gonna just log in one day and just sell all at once, right? You're committed to a cause. But if you have like a coin for a year or less, and it's a meme coin on top of that, there is a good chance that at one point you wake up and you're like, holy shit, I'd be stupid not to sell this. But then again, like we don't know who it is. Like we don't know who has that kind of position. So maybe in a year's time or something, if he doesn't sold, you can be certain that it's not going to happen. But right now, I wouldn't bet on it. Lols are up or down, dude. I fucking hate when I say, like, I think people are so stupid when they say that. When I'm like, okay, I think it's going to 80K and then probably gonna dump. And the same with Shiba. Like I'm saying it's gonna dump, and then people are like in the comments being like up or down. Like how stupid do you have to be? If you don't understand like that straight up argument that I'm making, you should probably not be watching anyway. I'm scared that if the Shiba guy dumps, we get a market dump all over the board. We probably will. Like if he sells at once and Shiba actually goes down 50%, which hilariously he can do, probably the entire market would take a hit. Just how it works. People get scared easily. But I mean, like I said, it doesn't have to happen. It's just like this uncertainty that you have that makes me not want to touch it. Like I don't see the point. If you want to take a trade on the Shiba Doge thing, I think what you do is this one. What you do basically is you bet on this. So what you do is you buy a bunch of Doge, sell a bunch of Shiba, because I think that's gonna mean revert. Like if you're into the meme kind of thing, that's the safest bet, in my opinion, anyway. So yeah. Don, is what we see in your streams all that you use in your trading, or do you have more tools in your arsenal? I have more, but the main parts are here anyway. And then you can add funding, you can add like confluence with friends, you can add a bunch of stuff. But the main parts, I mean, the main part of my trading, I try to make it logical, right? As in, I try to like kind of see if there's a narrative to be had, and if stuff that happens makes sense in some form or another. So yeah, there you go. I think that's enough about the meme coins. Like I said, with Bitcoin right now, I am still positioned bullish. I hope it goes up. If it does dip, I'm going to be buying 52. If it goes to 70 to 80K, I'm going to be looking for sells. And with regards to ETH, that's actually been really strong. We talked about this last week and the week before. And I've been saying 0.085 seems like a good resistance level. And I still think that's the case, right? So I could see this range in here for a while longer. But I could see it also take out these highs, get to like 15% plus from here against Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin goes up, that would mean that ETHUSD goes up quite a bit, right? So like 15% on the Bitcoin pair alone takes it to like 5.5-ish. And that if Bitcoin keeps going up, you can like get a little bit more on that as well. In general, ETHUSD still looks amazing. It's kind of weird how this has been like the slowest breakout ever, but it's a breakout, right? And it hasn't looked back. I don't want to see it look back either. Like I don't want to see it dip to 3.9K. I've seen a bunch of people argue that 3.9K is going to be like an amazing buy. I don't want to see that. I want to see it creep up like this for the next few weeks and then put in like a big candle, and that's enough for me. I'll get out if that happens. If it starts dipping, I get nervous, right? Because I think if we start retesting 3.9K, we could bounce, but I'd probably try to sell the bonds and then see if I can either buy low 3Ks again or just stay out completely. Because we've talked about like the breakout thing where it starts breaking out, goes sideways or whatever, and then starts breaking down again. That's like one of my best sell signals. And I think 3.9K probably wouldn't hold, right? You have a bunch of new excited all-time high buyers. If they start getting underwater, they get freaked, and I think they're gonna sell. And then you're either gonna get like a dip into the low 3Ks, which puts it dangerously close to this low, and to like invalidation on a market structure base. And yeah, just I wouldn't want to see it. I want to see this go straight up. Doesn't really matter how it does it, like if it's on ETH BTC or if it's Bitcoin based, right? If Bitcoin goes up, ETHUSD is going to go up most of the time. But it's also like Bitcoin could go sideways and ETH BTC could start breaking out. I don't mind either one. I don't want to see it put in a red candle. Because like this kind of structure, right, is the most constructive. You can look on the daily time frame for it. This kind of structure, as boring as it looks, is the most constructive that you can have for ETH. And this is how it usually looks before breakout. And if that fails, I start getting worried because, I mean, this kind of structure hasn't failed since 2020 March, right? You haven't had a grind up that didn't result in like a spike up here or here or even here, a tiny one, but still. You get the point, right? You want to see this walking up is good news. You don't want to see it start failing. And so far it hasn't, so I'm pretty chill. While everyone's been freaking out because Bitcoin hasn't done shit, I've just been chilling, holding some ETH. And I hope that continues. And so far, I mean, resistance-wise, 5K is like a round number, and it's going to be quite big, but it's too close for me to be taking profit. So 6 to 8K is kind of my area, I think. Depending on how the market plays, to kind of start reducing exposure. And it could go much higher, no idea. It's just, I bought ETH as a trade and I'm going to sell it as a trade as well. That's kind of my view. So yeah, thoughts on spot ETF impact next week. Is there something I missed? Because I've had a busy weekend. Is there like a spot ETF announced or something? Or why are you saying that? ETH for Bitcoin, you said you bought ETH for NFTs. Yeah, I have a bunch of ETH and I have a bunch of NFTs actually. that have gladly been holding in ETH volume for the most part. My Wassies haven't as much. They've gone down a little against ETH, but that's fine. But yeah, in general, like I mean, ETH's just been good, and NFTs have actually been interesting because they've bled less than I thought they would. I'm surprised they're holding up as well considering the ETH fees, right? Because nothing that runs on ETH is doing particularly well because no one wants to pay $200 to move anything, really. You don't want to buy an NFT for $2,000 if you have to pay 10% of that in fees, right? That's just not going to happen. So I don't think NFTs are going to do well until ETH fees kind of start going down or until like you get a mass influx of new people, because yeah, no one wants to pay this much. It's like going to the bank and being like, okay, if you wanna push money around, that's gonna be like 10% of the value that you push around. No one would want to move their money, and that's ETH right now. It kind of sucks. I hate seeing that. Makes me lose faith every time when I see like every bull market that was same in 17 made me lose faith in ETH. Because like ETH was unusable. It's the reason why I sold back then. Today, I think it has a little bit more room to go. But the reason why I'm like not looking for like crazy upside targets is because for me, like I think for the normal person, ETH is unusable. And I don't care if you're saying like transact on L2 or whatever. I don't know. I'm just not a big fan. Wasn't back then, not right now. Doesn't really matter though, as long as number go up, right? Because I mean, at the end of the day, like trading wise, it doesn't really matter what anything does, as long as you're kind of making money with it and then start selling again. Okay, that's ETH. I think someone asked ETH or Bitcoin. I think ETH looks much better than Bitcoin. So ETH's probably gonna outperform. But if Bitcoin really starts going, like if Bitcoin pulls in a candle like this, you're gonna shit the bed, because ETH BTC is probably gonna have almost the same candle but in the opposite direction, and then you're gonna curse yourself for not having more Bitcoin. So it's always good to have both, I think. Elon selling 10% of Tesla, why wouldn't he put it into Bitcoin? I mean, that's such a weird line of thinking. I mean, the market's stupid and the world's stupid, but like that argument is just like, okay, what? Like if I'm selling like a house or whatever, like even I wouldn't say, okay, just gonna put 10%, like just gonna put that money into Bitcoin because why not? Like I don't get the point. Hey Don, can you take us through how you see altcoin rotations going this cycle? I mean, my dream scenario is still this. Like I said, slow breakout. That's why, like, I think there's a good chance that we're gonna get a fake out, as in breakout above, go sideways, start breaking down again, right? I think if altcoins do well during this time, or maybe even during like this time, like roughly, that'd be my favorite kind of thing. So I think. And I think that's the most likely anyway. Like that kind of path is the most likely. So up towards like 70 to 80K, a little bit of sideways while the altcoins go off and then down. I think that's the most likely scenario. But maybe that's just my positioning speaking, because that's what I'm positioned for, right? So rotation going into meme coins, into garbage, is very likely, right? You get like the smallest caps basically, and like the coins that aren't worth much on like an individual basis, but obviously have a big market cap. So if you have like a coin that's $0.02 or whatever, those probably gonna do much better than the ones that are expensive in relative terms, which is so stupid. But I mean, the market participants nowadays are stupid, and everyone knows that, right? So they're like, if I can take advantage of a stupid guy that thinks that Shiba can go realistically to $1, I mean, might as well, right? Because if you make that calculation, how much of a market cap Shiba would have if it goes to $1. You're like, okay, anyone that has done that calculation knows that everyone that says Shiba to $1 is a fucking idiot. But it's like, it doesn't really matter when the market's this hot, right? You just buy this shit anyway, even if you know that $1 is a pipe dream, because that's probably going to outperform most of the market. But like I said, I wouldn't buy Shiba because it's fucking, like, you don't want to buy something that someone could push to zero. It's just not a good idea. But other meme coins, in general, trash coins, the smaller ones, probably the better. They're going to perform best first, and then I think the bigger coins are going to perform better later into the cycle, and then it's going to go down. Very, very different from back in the day when you had like big caps like ETH and friends basically moved first, and then it moved into the mid caps, into low caps. I don't think that's the case anymore ever since we went and stopped trading on the Bitcoin pairs. So like the shittiest stuff moves first, as in like Bitcoin moves first, then the shitty stuff, then the bigger stuff as kind of like an exit thing. So yeah. What if we're doing the sideways part now with altcoins doing well and the next part is down? I mean, we haven't seen the altcoins move big. If they start moving, like if I see like the altcoins move big, there's a couple of reasons why I don't think that's gonna happen, right? But if I do see them move big here while we're chilling here, I'd get the fuck out of the market immediately. Like we get like a week of 50% upside after 50% upside every single day on some of these coins, or on the majority of these coins. I'm out of the market after a week. It's just like, there's no way I would hold. But there's a couple of reasons why I don't think that is going to happen. One, retail interest isn't actually that high right now. Like Bitcoin's at all-time high, but like you don't see it on newspapers. You don't see it in the news constantly. We've had that in here. We don't have it right now, just based on the fact that 60K isn't really too interesting anymore. We've had that before, so people like whatever. I think that retail interest could come back if we make significant new all-time highs. And then to market cycle wise, like it's very, very rare that you get Bitcoin go to a price number, break back down, and then go back to what's the first high and then just start dumping. Like this is just very, very unlikely. So like, in my opinion, either we do this or we do this. I'd be very, very surprised by this. I mean, I'd be less surprised by the market in general going sideways here for 5 years than I would be by this just going down. Like, that makes no sense to me. But, I mean, like stranger things have happened, and if the traditional markets start collapsing for whatever reason, which I don't think is going to happen, but if they do, this could play out, right? But I don't think like just a random crypto move with no relation to any other market would pull this. Like, there's very, very little chance of it happening. Unless, like I said, the traditional markets do something crazy. So yeah, that's my view on that. Hope that makes sense. Talked about ETH, talked about Bitcoin. We can talk about other altcoins, but really, like realistically, nothing too exciting there. I think you can see this. Like this is mostly Bitcoin dominated, like Bitcoin denominated list, and most stuff is red. Which makes sense, right? Bitcoin is like at an inflection point, and whenever that's the case, people start risking off on altcoins, right? You can kind of imagine this. People are getting scared every time Bitcoin goes to 60K, right? Imagine how scared they are in the altcoins, right? They're like, oh shit, Bitcoin's about to break down, and I'm sitting in these altcoins, and it's the same thing when it goes up, right? They're like, oh shit, Bitcoin's going up. If it breaks out, I'm going to get wrecked in my altcoins. So the longer this goes on, the more nervous people get. And the Bitcoin people are already super nervous. The altcoin holders are obviously going to be more nervous than the Bitcoin holders because they're risking more. So you're gonna see like a bunch of like random or like what seems to be random moves to the downside. Some of them obviously do the outlier thing and start moving up, but like the majority of the market is usually gonna risk off when you're right at a point where it looks like it's gonna break up or down. That said, I've been saying okay, volatility is probably gonna come soon for like at least 7 days, and we haven't moved at all. So take that with a grain of salt. In my opinion, like 1 week isn't soon, right? Like we could still do this for like 2 more weeks and then go hard. If like the move is like this, that's completely reasonable. Same thing with like if it's like this, even though, like I said, I don't think that's gonna happen. So yeah, for me, what's happening just makes sense, right? The altcoins like being a little bit on the depressed side, so it doesn't really make much sense for me to talk about them, because I mean I can open you the Zcash Bitcoin chart and can tell you how shit it looks, but I mean nobody really cares, right? And then I could even go to the layer ones, the ones that people care about more, and go to YFI and be like, okay, this looks like not bad, not good, but it looks much worse than Bitcoin does. And I could go through this entire list, and this is like pretty much for every single coin, it's the same story. Looks like, this looks kind of garbage, not gonna lie. But like, okay, these all look shit. But like this, like doesn't look bad, you know? Like you have like a low set and then higher low. But like if I have to make a choice between ETH and this, I take ETH. If I have to make a choice between Bitcoin and this, I take Bitcoin, right? And as long as that's the case, as long as these charts look worse than Bitcoin and ETH do, I mean, why would I want to talk about them too much, right? Could we look at AVAX? I mean, AVAX is one of the outliers. And you can see that on the Bitcoin pair. And I mean, Jesus, my lines, man. Sometimes my lines and boxes just... I haven't opened this chart in a while, but yeah, support resistance sometimes does work, huh? But yeah, this is one of the outliers. And whenever you have like strong moving ones, right, like this, when you see like, okay, this is like, you saw the comparison, right, between this and the ones that I pulled up earlier. When you see this, you want to be the guy that looks for support resistances that you can actually buy on these outliers. People tend to, like, I've seen so many people look at Solana, see that it's strong, and then they're like, okay, Solana's little brother is Serum, so let me buy this instead. And oh shit, look at that. That played out pretty nicely. It's been ages. Like I was like, if it breaks this, it's gonna go to the next resistance. And then I was like, if it does go there, it's probably gonna like go higher, and that failed. But the first part of the trade played out pretty nicely. But that's weeks and weeks ago. But either way, like I've seen so many people try to trade this instead. And I mean, it's not the worst kind of looking chart, right? But the outperformers are outperformers for a reason, right? You want to stick with the ones that are showing strength. You don't want to stick with the ones that you think are going to catch up, because that's going to fuck you over like 90% of the time. Because if you've been like, if you're bullish on Solana, and this, I can show you this real quick. If you're bullish on Solana and you buy Serum instead, what you've basically done, we can actually do this relative to, not Bitcoin, Serum USD. You're going to get depressed by seeing this. But like, let's say, sorry about that. You bullish Solana and you try to play the catch-up play with Serum instead. If you did that at the beginning of this year, right? Yeah, you haven't had much fun, because like, better way to show it is this. You've basically lost almost, I don't even want to like poor people that have done that. It's just, this is what you kind of subject yourself to if you try to play the straggler. And I mean, Serum isn't the worst performer whatsoever, right? It's just everyone that's been buying it has been like heartbroken as fuck. and people keep on buying it. And it's the same with Zcash, right? If you like go back from like newer coins into older coins, like people keep on buying Zcash, and it's been underperforming for years and years and years. And the reason is because they're like, okay, this has underperformed for so long, it has to catch up at some point. And it's the worst reason to invest in something. Because whenever something goes down and to the right, it's probably going to continue to do that. Whenever something goes up and to the right, it's probably going to continue doing that. So if you're not buying this because you think this is going to have some weird like catch-up play, 99% of the time you're just fucking yourself over. So take that with like, that's my financial advice for the day. Don't be stupid and try to buy the stragglers all the time. I've seen too many people like make that into their crypto careers and like pull off 2x's of re-x's while all their friends pull up like 50x's. It's just how this shit works. Strong coins remain strong, weak coins remain weak. And if you have like a coin that consistently gets fucked by Bitcoin, don't even bother with it, right? You can trade this thing if you want to, and there's gonna be trades on Zcash. But the thing is, this bounces, and it bounces like 50, 60%. That's quite the move, right? And then you look at AVAX, and we talked about this a second ago, and that shit bounces, and it's up 700%. Now, do you really wanna waste your time trying to time Zcash 60%? Well, you can have like a much easier trade on something like this that bounces much, much stronger. And the answer is obvious, right? It's just some people don't like, it's basically you investing time in something. Like people are so excited about like stuff they've invested time. And I mean, I do the same thing from time to time. I've been buying Litecoin for some of these moves. And I mean, I've made like 20% every single time or like 30% or something like that. But at the end of the day, like if I spent that energy on something else, if there was something else that had the same liquidity, which back in the day there wasn't, but nowadays there is, yeah, you're probably gonna like, I've wasted my time in comparison. Still, money is money, and if you're like really comfortable, for example with Litecoin, I'm really comfortable trading this. Can't remember the last time I took a loss. But then again, haven't taken a big win on this either, right? So if you're super comfortable, you can trade it, you can do whatever you want with it. And at the end of the day, like that's all that matters. But be sure to not be like, okay, I'm bullish on one coin and I'm just going to buy Litecoin because I think Litecoin is going to catch up some or something. I think that's stupid reasoning. If anything, if your argument is, I know this coin inside and out, and that's the same for Zcash, and I know when it's gonna pump, then to by all means trade it, right? Big difference there. The straggler kind of play is always the bad one though. So there you go. So you seem a little bearish in Sol BTC, but how about Sol USD? Dude, you need to stop. Like, I've talked about Sol BTC. If you're bullish on Sol USD, you're bullish on Bitcoin, basically. If I'm okay, I'm cautious on Sol BTC, that means like if you think Bitcoin goes up, you can hold Sol USD. If you don't, I mean, you probably shouldn't. And I mean, you shouldn't listen to my advice anyway. Just listen to what my argument is and then see if that makes sense to you. And if it doesn't, I mean, do whatever like you think is best. And if it does, rethink if that's just because I said it. Because at the end of the day, like the people that are sitting, like you guys listening to me, you gotta realize that you're the guy pushing the button at the end of the day, right? I'm not responsible for whatever you do. And you're not gonna learn anything if you just blindly copy trade me all the time. You're just gonna be reliant on me, right? And I'm not always gonna be right, and I'm not always gonna be the guy that's gonna hold your hand, right? Sometimes like I'm not here, sometimes I just don't want to talk about something, or sometimes I just don't know, right? And then you're gonna be screwed. So take whatever I say with a grain of salt, kind of like think, does this make sense to me? Do I agree with this kind of reasoning? And if you don't have to. And if you do, I mean, happy to help, right? But it's not like, okay, what does this guy think so I can do it? It's how does this guy think, and can I kind of like take some of that for my own, or do I not care enough? And that's fine. So there you go. So that's that. Talked about the altcoins. Went on a rant. Any other cool questions? Anything that we should talk about besides, like, please don't kind of spam me with tickets. It's gonna make me sad on a Sunday. Don't make me sad on a Sunday. But yeah, any good questions or anything that you guys want to talk about, I'm all ears. Hit the like button for change. I mean, that's a good comment because I would have forgot to ask. But yeah, if you like the video or whatever, I mean, you can press that button. It's gonna make the algo go happy, and I mean, they're gonna rule the world one day, so better make them happy. I always take you as food for thought. That's what I'm trying to do, right? Like, whatever I say doesn't have to be like, you don't have to take it as one-to-one. You just gotta think about, okay, does this actually make sense to me, what this guy's saying? And if it does, there's probably some truth in it. And if it doesn't, I mean, you can think about like why it doesn't make sense to you. And maybe you can formulate something better, or maybe you realize that your way of thinking is flawed in that aspect. Yeah, there you go. Can't wait for Eve to break out. Yeah, man, this is fucking nuts. Like, people don't realize, like, look at this. This is so rare. Like, doing this with these prices is completely nuts to me. Like, this looks stupidly bullish right now. Can turn real bearish real fast, right? This starts breaking down, like that's a parabolic advanced kind of broken to the downside, and that's bad news. But as long as that doesn't happen, like most of the time what happens is like you get, and I mean, some people are gonna see the resemblance or whatever to other methods, but oftentimes, like in these crypto markets, what happens is these grind ups don't end with like a pullback. They actually end with like steeper increases and steeper increases. And I think we're due for a steep increase. I think that's going to be the same as here though. I think the moment, like the longer this grinds, the better for bulls, because I think that's going to be the base for the next one. So for the next kind of like pull down, drawdown, whatever, you get what I'm saying. So let's say this grinds back up to like 5.5 without increasing in velocity, right? And then goes high. I think it's gonna crash again, but it's gonna crash back to there. And I think if it goes straight up from here, it's gonna crash back to where we are right now. I don't know if it's gonna crash down lower, and if that's gonna be the end of the bull market or whatever. But I think like anything that we do like in this fashion, we're gonna full retrace. So the longer this doesn't happen, the better for bulls. As long as we obviously don't just like start breaking this advance down, because that would be bad news. So yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic right now anyway. Do you think as a new trader I should focus more on long-term trades or shorter trades? I think you should focus on the long-term trades in general as a trader, unless you have like a really good idea of like a way to find a solid edge in the lower time frames. As in like you have like a genius idea how you could like automate something, or like take advantage of like information that you have that no one else has, or if you're like a giga brain that can kind of calculate valuations and stuff really well, or make models for valuations that you think fit the market really well. I think like that kind of stuff, like you can do a bunch on the lower time frames in that regard, but most of the time, from like a time spent to reward, there's nothing better than long time frame trading. Because at the end of the day, right, you look at this ETH chart, and the last move that I kind of made was buy down here, because I was like, okay, if there's gonna be high low, that's gonna be here, and I haven't done shit since. And I mean, I have looked at the chart more than this, but technically, what I like, according to my system, even what I could do is I could not look at the chart for an entire week, come back to the next candle close, see how does it look, still looks the same, come back the next week. This would take me 10 minutes a day, right, to kind of pull off. Like, you can like legitimately trade on the longer time frames as long as you have some practice by not doing much, right? You don't have to be around for all of this, right? It's just straight up grind up. Like, nothing's changed in the last 4 weeks on like anything kind of ETH related. And the same thing is true for Bitcoin, right? If you bought this as a higher low, you can set alarms. Like, let's say you have this push up candle. You set an alarm at like 45 and then you walk away, and you wouldn't have to have looked at the chart at all since then. And that's better use of your time than just sitting here being obsessed about this time frame, looking at the daily, being like, oh shit, or looking at like whatever, making you freak out, close your positions 10 times over, and then get chopped up, right? Like, at the end of the day, like, you don't need to do much to trade this, and you can do it without leverage. You can do all that kind of stuff. You don't need to kind of risk your head every single time you trade, and you don't need to put in much time if you do the long time frame stuff. If you do the shorter time frame stuff, there's obviously some reward to that, and it's like, it feels more like a full-time job, which, if you're into that, makes sense. And I mean, I've done a mixture of both. I don't really do the low time frame stuff anymore. One, because I can't use leverage anymore, and I think without leverage, the low time frame stuff is kind of wasted time. And two, because I think my time is better spent enjoying life rather than sit in front of the screen obsessing over every 5-minute candle. And I mean, at the end of the day, right, this 5-minute candle could just be like some random guy buying in, or this 5-minute candle could just be like some whatever holder of like Bitcoin that held since 20K, being like, okay, I want to take a vacation, and he sells like a bunch of Bitcoin, and then price goes down. You're like, okay, does this have like, does this have a technical like effect on my trading? Like, is this too far of a pullback? And it's like some random dude sitting in whatever, China or Canada or whatever, just taking a little bit of profit to pay for a yard party. Like, there's no real significance to most of these candles, and the further you zoom out, the less likely something like that becomes, right? So there's more reason the further you go out, and that's easier to interpret. So there you go. That's my view on that matter. I think your time is better spent taking it slow. Wasn't there a time when buying legates was a play? If so, what changed? No, it was not really. Like, what people did is they bought legates and then they made like 20% while the main coin went up 30. And then they were like, okay, yeah, but like the main, like the strong coin would have been too risky because it's already up 50%. But it's not, right? Because like, if the main coin, like if you have like a strong coin that goes up 30% and you buy the legate and the legate goes up 20% while the strong coin goes up 30% again, right? What you basically did is, like, if this coin went down, your legate wouldn't have gone up in the first place, right? So the first leg happens while your coin goes sideways still. And then the second leg pulls your coin up with it. But if that second leg doesn't happen and it pulls down, your coin is gonna dump as well. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you're taking the same risk. And most of the time, the leading coin is going to lead, and it's going to show strength. I think I just nuked all the lines that I have on the daily and weekly chart. Whatever. Time to remake them at some point anyway. But yeah, it's pumping a little bit. Nothing significant though, and I mean, this can do still like whatever it wants to. Um, I would have actually preferred if we took out this wick on the lower time frames, but all good, all good. So far, so good. Why can't you use leverage? It's just hard to do in Germany. Like I've done like a little bit of leverage trading this year, but I only do it when I'm like almost 100% certain I'm gonna win because tax-wise, you got like heavy taxed even on losses in Germany, so it's not worth. Have you thought about leaving Germany because of taxes and limitations? I have, but then again, like with my medical history and stuff, I just prefer staying here. And I am not really reliant on like leverage trading in general. Hit CTO. Yeah, thanks for the recommendation, dude. I'll just redo them. Like it's good to redo like your lines from time to time, so you don't miss shit. What do you think about gaming coins? I think gaming coins is like in a sector that's probably gonna do well. It seems like there's sufficient hype behind it. I think like the gaming games, the crypto games, they're all shit, like complete garbage. But there's enough, like people have made enough with the games in crypto that people are just gonna buy it. And I mean, I can say the same thing, right? Like if I see a game that isn't completely boring in crypto, I'm gonna buy the coin that has like it just makes sense because I think if it's not complete garbage, people are gonna buy it because people like just speculate on this shit. And so my opinion is like all of the games that I've seen and played are pretty shit. Um, that doesn't really matter though because like from like some of the previous pumps that we've had, some have been in the gaming sector and they've been really really strong. Like the strongest pumps have come from some of the games in the space. So I think that's gonna translate to other games that come around. So I don't have like a strong view about like any games out there right now or like coming out or whatever. But if you find like a decent one that isn't complete garbage, I mean, it makes sense to buy some. Um, but I'm not the right guy to ask for that. Like I'm never gonna shill a low cap or like even a mid cap on here. Like that's just not gonna happen. Because I don't want to pump, I don't want to dump, I don't want to be involved in any of that sort of thing. I'd much rather like even if I find something, um, I'd probably not share it. It's just not. This is not the space to do it. Like in if at all, I'd share it privately because, like I said, it's just not worth it for me. Like I don't need the liquidity of like you guys, and I don't want to get in the situation where like I compromise on any of my morals. It's just not worth it for me. Can't you just switch the exchange like KuCoin? No. It's not about the exchange, it's a tax law. So whatever you pull out gets taxed. And if it's derivatives based, it gets taxed differently. But yeah, that's that. I think we've talked about stuff enough. Like I said, short version is I hope Bitcoin goes to 70 to 80K. I hope ETH goes to 6K. I hope like Bitcoin starts distributing between 70 and 80K. I mean, I don't hope, but I think it probably will. Could be wrong on that front though. We'll see once we get there. And yeah, I think in that range, altcoins should do well. Right now, I don't really see a good window, but I do have ETH, so I don't want to risk missing out on ETH, I guess. That's why I have it. And I have some NFTs just because, I mean, a bunch of my friends started projects in the NFT space, bought a bunch of those, and have a little bit of something else. But yeah, beyond that, there's not that much to talk about, I think. Appreciate you guys coming by. Appreciate the sponsor of the show, which is FTX. Their links are in the description. Like I said, they have an excellent mobile app and in general do like a pretty good job, all things crypto. So if you want to check them out, they were formerly known as Blockfolio. Their links are in the description and yeah, you'll enjoy it, I promise. And yeah, thanks for coming by. Appreciate the support as always. Hope you had a good Sunday. I thought we would get more casual today, but I mean, no one asked me casual questions, so kept it crypto focused, which is fine by me. I think like there's plenty of content to talk about, even when the market just goes sideways. It's funny that it's breaking out the moment we started the stream though, because we haven't really moved at all. And now that I've been streaming, it's gone up ever since. I like that confluence. But yeah, appreciate you guys coming by, and we'll see each other tomorrow actually on Weekly Open if you're interested in that. And if not, on Wednesday again. See ya guys, bye bye.